Have you ever stared at a freshly painted brick wall or maybe an old masonry fireplace and thought, oh no, what have I just done? Well, if you're looking at a Limewash project with a serious case of regret right now, trust me, you are definitely not alone. Limewash is celebrated specifically because it is designed to last. I mean, that incredible durability is literally its biggest selling point. But, when the color just doesn't fit your vibe anymore, or maybe a DIY application went a little sideways, that exact same durability, it transforms into a massive headache.
Welcome to this explainer. I am genuinely thrilled you're joining us today because we are going to completely demystify the process of undoing that headache and restoring your raw, beautiful brick. Look, removing Limewash feels overwhelming, mostly because people try to treat it like regular paint, and it's just not. So today, we're diving into the definitive, step-by-step escalation guide for 2026, straight from the Paintly editorial team's latest research. By the end of our time together, you're going to have a structured, confident plan to tackle your masonry, no matter how old or stubborn that Limewash is. Here's the roadmap for what we're covering today. First, the Limewash chemistry problem. Second, distressing as the easier alternative. Third, we'll look at escalating removal methods. And finally, number 4, the universal removal process.
All right, let's jump straight into part 1, the Limewash chemistry problem and exactly why this stuff won't just peel off. So why can't you just grab a standard scraper and peel this stuff off the wall? Well, if you try to treat Limewash like regular house paint, you are setting yourself up for a totally miserable weekend. The chemistry fundamentally matters here. See, when you apply standard latex paint, it dries by forming this plastic-like film that just sits right on top of the brick. You slap on some standard chemical paint stripper, it bubbles up, and you peel it away. Easy, right? But mineral Limewash is a totally different beast. It physically penetrates the microscopic pores of the masonry. As it cures, it goes through a process called carbonation. This means the lime literally chemically bonds with the brick surface. Over time, it actually becomes part of the brick itself. And that right there is exactly why it never peels, and why the longer it sits, the harder it is to remove. Moving on to Section 2, distressing. This is the easier alternative, basically a cheat code before we get into the really hard work.
Knowing that Limewash essentially turns to solid stone over time, I want to offer you a potential cheat code before we commit to the heavy, back-breaking labor of a full chemical removal. If you applied your Limewash relatively recently, say anywhere within the first few months, maybe up to a year, it might actually still be soft enough for this technique. Distressing is basically just selectively scrubbing back the Limewash with plain old water and a brush to expose more of the underlying brick. So instead of fighting to strip the wall back to 100% bare masonry, you're strategically pulling back the coverage. It transforms a flat, overly opaque application into this beautifully aged, variegated architectural feature. Honestly, if your main goal is simply just less white on the wall, this technique can save you an enormous amount of time, money, and exposure to harsh chemicals.
But if that's not enough, we hit Section 3, escalating removal methods. We're going from gentle water all the way up to the nuclear option.
Let's say distressing just isn't going to cut it. You want bare brick, or maybe you're dealing with a really old, stubborn application. In that case, we have to escalate. The absolutely crucial point here is choosing your proper level on this escalation staircase. You really don't want to bring a sledgehammer to a thumbtack, right? So, if your Limewash is super fresh, like applied within the last 48 to 72 hours, you are in the easy tier. Warm water and some vigorous scrubbing will take it right off before it fully cures. If you have a light or thin coat that's a bit older, we step up to easy medium. Here, a 50-50 mix of white vinegar and water is your best bet, because the mild acid in the vinegar breaks down that alkaline lime beautifully. Now, for exterior brick with fully cured coats, we hit medium. This means busting out a pressure washer set to about 1200 to 1500 psi. Just remember to keep that nozzle moving, roughly 8 to 12 inches away, so you don't blast away the actual brick face. And finally, the hard tier. This is the nuclear option for stubborn, multi-coat, fully cured exterior Limewash. This is where we bring in a 10-to-1 diluted muriatic acid wash. For those lighter jobs in the easy and easy medium tiers, gentle mechanical tools are going to be your absolute best friends. If you're working with fresh Limewash, grab a 7-inch wide masonry brush. Its wide format covers brick faces literally 3 times faster than a standard brush, and the wooden block handle helps distribute your pressure evenly. Now, if you're using that vinegar solution on a slightly older application, you've got to check out the Duo Sheeta 4-piece power brush kit. It attaches straight to a standard power drill, and it can chew through about 2 to 3 square feet per minute. But please, notice that bolded bullet point at the bottom. Nylon bristles are mandatory.
Seriously, you might be tempted to just grab a wire brush from the garage, but don't do it. Wire will permanently scratch and score your aged brick. Nylon is exactly what you need. It's aggressive enough to attack the lime, especially when paired with vinegar, but it won't destroy your masonry.
Now, what's really interesting about this number, 90%, is that if you absolutely must escalate to the nuclear option for fully cured stubborn lime wash, you don't have to suffocate yourself in the process. The experts highly recommend Clean Strip Green Safer Muriatic Acid. The green formula actually produces 90% fewer fumes than standard muriatic acid, and let me tell you, that is a massive safety advantage, especially since you're going to be working right up close to the wall. You just dilute this stuff, 10 parts water to 1 part acid, apply it with that nylon brush we just talked about, and wait about 5 to 10 minutes until the fizzing completely stops. Once the fizzing stops, it means the calcium carbonate bond has been successfully broken.
Let's just stop right here for a second. I need you to mentally highlight, underline, and circle this specific rule. This is the absolute golden rule of chemical masonry removal. Always pre-wet the brick with plain water first. If you apply acid or frankly even a vinegar solution to bone-dry brick, the highly porous masonry is going to suck those chemicals incredibly deep into its core, and that can permanently discolor or even etch your brick from the inside out. By soaking the wall with plain water first, you're filling those pores, creating a water barrier that forces your chemical removal agent to stay right on the surface, directly attacking the lime wash exactly where it belongs.
All right, moving into our final phase, Section 4, the universal removal process, doing it safely and effectively.
Now that we've accurately matched our method to the age of the lime wash and we have our golden rules locked in, let's walk through the foolproof start-to-finish execution plan. Step 1 is prep. We start by taping off and protecting literally everything with plastic. Plants, windows, metal fixtures, the whole shebang. Muriatic acid and even vinegar will severely damage wood and metal on contact. Step 2 is full PPE. I really cannot stress this enough, and by the way, OSHA safety guidelines actually mandate this for handling hydrochloric acid solutions. You need an N95 or P100 respirator, thick chemical-resistant gloves, and full-seal eye goggles. Not just safety glasses, real goggles. Oh, and have a bucket of fresh water nearby just in case. Step 3. Always test your method on a tiny 6x6-inch inconspicuous spot first to see exactly how your specific brick reacts. Older brick, especially from before 1950, is a lot softer and might need a much weaker acid dilution. And step 4, there's our golden rule again. Pre-wet the entire surface evenly with a hose or a pump sprayer.
Moving right along to the second half of the process, Step 5, apply your removal agent, and make sure you're working top to bottom. If you start at the top, the chemical runoff won't over-etch the sections below it that you've already cleaned. Step 6, scrub firmly with your nylon brush. Try using circular motions on the flat brick faces and straight strokes to get really deep into those mortar lines. Step 7, rinse thoroughly. And listen, you must do it twice. 2 times. If you leave acid residue deep in the brick pores, it will just keep reacting with moisture over time and cause efflorescence. You know, that chalky, white, powdery surface damage? Nobody wants that. So rinse immediately, wait about 10 minutes, and then rinse it all again. Finally, Step 8, let it dry for a minimum of 48 to 72 hours. If you trap any moisture under a new coat of paint or sealer, it's going to cause total adhesion failure.
So there you have it. You followed the steps, you've respected the chemistry, used the right nylon tools, and safely removed that stubborn finish. You now possess the exact knowledge to undo what felt like a major masonry mistake. The absolute hardest part is completely behind you. So now I want to leave you with this final thought. Once you've successfully reset your masonry back to its beautiful, raw, porous state, what story is your brick going to tell next? Are you going to leave it bare and historic? Will you try a totally new tint? The canvas is officially yours again. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Stay curious, stay safe out there with your DIY projects, and I will see you next time.